1. Alcohol. Alcohol is legal almost everywhere on Earth, and that's exactly why it does the most damage. Over 2 billion people drink regularly worldwide. It's woven into weddings, funerals, business dinners, sports games. A single drink relaxes the nervous system in under 10 minutes. That's the appeal. Fast, social, sanctioned. But alcohol is a direct toxin to the liver. Chronic use scars liver tissue into something called cirrhosis, and the World Health Organization links it to over 3 million deaths a year. It's also the only major drug where withdrawal can kill you outright. The brain can seize and shut down without it. The twist? It's the drug parents worry about least because everyone's parents drank it too. The most normalized drug on the planet is also one of the deadliest. 2. Nicotine. Nicotine hooks faster than almost anything else people willingly put in their bodies. It reaches the brain in about 10 seconds. One cigarette, one hit, and dopamine spikes hard enough that some users are dependent after a handful of tries. Tobacco companies built an empire on that speed. Over 1 billion people smoke today, and the industry still generates hundreds of billions in revenue annually. The habit feels small, a break, a ritual, 5 minutes outside. However, the damage isn't small. Smoking is tied to roughly 8 million deaths a year, more than half of long-term users eventually dying from a smoking-related illness. Lung scar, arteries narrow. Cancer risk climbs across nearly every organ system. A 10-second high built one of history's most profitable, deadliest industries. 3. Caffeine. Caffeine is the most consumed psychoactive substance on Earth. Over 2 billion cups of coffee are poured every single day. It blocks adenosine, the chemical that makes you feel tired, and within 20 minutes, the fog lifts. It built entire economies. Coffee shops, energy drinks, a multi-billion-dollar global industry running on the simple promise of alertness. But the body adapts fast. Tolerance builds within days, and the same cup that once felt like a jolt barely registers a month later. Heavy daily users who skip it face pounding headaches, irritability, and crashes that mimic real withdrawal. High doses can spike heart rate and anxiety hard enough to land people in emergency rooms. The world's most beloved stimulant is also the one nobody thinks to call a drug. 4. Cannabis. Cannabis has shifted from underground to mainstream faster than almost any substance in modern history. It's now legal in some form across dozens of countries and most US states, with the global market valued in the tens of billions of dollars. The pitch is relaxation. A mellow high, none of alcohol's violence, none of nicotine's speed dependency. For a long time it was sold as the safe drug. However, today's cannabis isn't the cannabis from decades ago. THC potency has roughly tripled since the 1990s, and heavy adolescent use is now linked to a measurably higher risk of psychosis in vulnerable individuals. Regular smoking still damages the lungs the same way tobacco smoke does. The drug marketed as harmless got stronger while its reputation stayed the same. 5. Opioid painkillers. Opioid painkillers were supposed to be medicine's answer to suffering. Drugs like oxycodone flooded pharmacies starting in the late 1990s, with manufacturers assuring doctors the addiction risk was minimal. It wasn't. Prescriptions in the US quadrupled between 1999 and 2010. These drugs bind directly to the brain's pain and pleasure receptors, and they work. Patients in agony finally felt relief. But the same receptors that kill pain also kill the drive to breathe. Overdose numbers exploded. Over 80,000 Americans now die from opioid overdoses in a single year, and a huge share of heroin users started with a legitimate prescription. A medicine cabinet became the entry point to the deadliest drug crisis in modern history. 6. Cocaine. Cocaine sells speed and confidence in powder form. It floods the brain with dopamine almost instantly, producing a rush of energy and euphoria that peaks within minutes. It became the signature drug of 1980s excess, a status symbol as much as a substance. Global production has actually climbed in recent years, with hundreds of tons trafficked annually through South America alone. However, that rush is short, often under 30 minutes, which drives a binge pattern few other drugs create. The come down is brutal, crashing energy, paranoia, and a heart under real strain. Cocaine is one of the leading causes of drug-related cardiac arrest in otherwise young, healthy users. The drug built for confidence quietly became one of the fastest ways to put a healthy heart in the ER. 7. Methamphetamine. Methamphetamine offers something almost no other drug can promise: hours of energy on a single dose, sometimes half a day or more. That's what made it explode across rural and working-class communities. Long shifts, long hauls, long nights, all made easier. Its manufacture is cheap, which pushed it into mass production through illegal labs worldwide. But the body pays for every one of those hours later. Meth destroys dopamine receptors with repeated use, leaving users unable to feel pleasure from ordinary life. Heavy use accelerates aging visibly. Skin, teeth, weight all collapse over months, not years. Psychosis and violent paranoia are common in long-term users. Meth sells you extra hours today and takes the rest of your years in return. 8. MDMA. MDMA built its reputation on connection. At festivals and clubs worldwide, it floods the brain with serotonin, producing waves of empathy and euphoria that can last 3 to 6 hours. Millions of doses circulate through the party scene every year. For a drug associated with joy, it has a strangely clinical mechanism. It essentially empties the brain's serotonin stores in one sitting. That's the turn. The days after use, often called the MDMA hangover, bring crushing low mood because the serotonin that should be feeling great life moments has already been spent. Regular use is linked to memory problems and, in hot, crowded environments, dangerous spikes in body temperature that have caused deaths at festivals. The drug that borrows tomorrow's happiness always sends the bill. 9. Benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepines were built to calm the exact panic that modern life creates. Drugs like Xanax and Valium slow the nervous system down within 30 minutes, making them the most prescribed anti-anxiety medication class on the planet. Hundreds of millions of prescriptions written every year. For patients in crisis, that calm can be genuinely life-changing. However, the brain adapts to that calm quickly, and dependence can form in weeks, not years. Withdrawal is one of the few drug withdrawals that can be fatal, capable of triggering seizures. Mixed with alcohol or opioids, benzodiazepines suppress breathing enough to be a leading factor in combination drug deaths. The pill built to stop panic can, in the end, cause a kind of panic no one can talk their way out of. 10. Prescription stimulants. Prescription stimulants like Adderall and Ritalin promise focus on demand. They boost dopamine and norepinephrine in the brain, sharpening attention within about 30 to 60 minutes. Originally built for ADHD, they now sit in millions of medicine cabinets. Over 41 million prescriptions are written for them in the US every year. Their reputation grew far beyond the clinic. College campuses turned them into study drugs, swapped and shared during exam season because the focus felt like a shortcut nobody wanted to give up. However, that focus comes at a cost. The same dopamine surge that sharpens attention can also spike heart rate and blood pressure, and long-term use is linked to anxiety, insomnia, and appetite loss serious enough to affect growth in younger users. Misuse without a prescription raises the risk of dependence, and stopping suddenly after heavy use can trigger a crash of exhaustion and low mood that mirrors withdrawal from harder stimulants. The pill built to sharpen the mind can, with enough misuse, wear it down instead.